You're listening to Cobb, Conversations on the Business of Brands, with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
We've been talking a lot about how people should think about launching a brand and how the brand thinking actually starts even before business thinking does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're a little biased. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you and I have worked in these large companies. So most of these brands that we worked on have already existed even before we came onto the scene. Let's take the case of the smaller businesses. How can they even think of their brand before they've launched their business? Before you answer that, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm actually going to give you a case so that you can solve for it today.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in one of the episodes, you also mentioned the concept of a healthy chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I were to tell you to launch a healthy chocolate to atone for our sins of the past, how would you go about it? Tell me how brand thinking can even begin before business thinking does.
That I think helps ground some of the discussions that we have done in the past. Although I must say that some of the new launches that we did helped us develop this conviction about brand thinking coming in way early. So
Right.
let's try and demonstrate that. And we should do this for the healthy chocolate case. We should do it for branding as well as marketing.
Absolutely.
So let's solve for the branding one today. As we said, branding before marketing.
Right.
So branding, as we said, that branding is a set of promises that a brand makes to the consumers, and it comprises of your deepest beliefs and all the actions, the extrinsic actions that you take to live those beliefs.
Right.
Yeah. So now, if I am a healthy chocolate brand, I would have to undertake a few exercises and think about a few aspects before I start making choices about who do I want to be. So therefore, let me take you through that process, and feel free to ask questions wherever you want.
Even before you start, can you kind of give an overview of what we'll be covering on the brand front today?
So we'll basically populate three different formats slash frameworks just to make sure that we structure our thinking properly. The first one is where we will just try to put the lay of the land, where we will say that what is the category that we are entering into, what are the various dimensions of the category, and we'll talk about dimensions when we speak about the specific example.
Hmm.
Then we will try to dimensionalize consumers, and lastly we will also try to dimensionalize competition.
Sure.
And then we get into a choice making format, Sharan, where
Hmm.
we make a benefit ladder for our brand.
Okay.
So we will say what are the features that we want to put into our brand, what are the advantages that those features would give, and therefore what is the benefit that the consumer would derive out of it. And finally, we will create what we call as winning competitive edge, WCE framework, where we simply put all of our choices onto one page so that it visually comes alive whenever any of our brand owners, startup owners, business owners wants to brief anybody around their business. Now each one of these has its own fields, etc., that you would want to think about, that you would want to fill up. So let's get into it one by one.
Let's do it.
So let's start first with the what we call as the context, setting
Hmm.
up the context, setting up the lay of the land. So first we talk about the category. We said that we were trying to get into the healthy chocolate category. So while the chocolate is healthy, the category is the chocolate category. So you first need to think about why do people eat chocolate? What are the benefits that people provide? I will possibly also try to give reasoning why we need to think about each one of these aspects.
Sure.
We need to think about some of the category benefits, because every product that exists in that category would have to take off some of those or some or all of those benefits for it to have any right to win. If you are not taking any of those, then either you are playing in the wrong category, or you will have very little chance to succeed, because some of those are category codes. So some of the benefits that people derive out of chocolate category are that they either use it to round off a square meal, they use it to celebrate, big occasions, small occasions, etc. They use it to share happiness, like in Indian context up, you share meetha.
Right.
Similarly, you share chocolates. And very simply, they could also be using it to satisfy a sweet craving.
Right. The
Yeah.
indulgence bit.
Indulgence bit for themselves or their friends, etc. And because it's a healthy chocolate, they would want to do all of this in a guilt free manner.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't mistake it for a protein shake. They're not doing
Hmm.
this to build muscle.
Okay.
Yeah. All of this being done in a guilt free manner. So that is
Okay.
what the consumer possibly derives from this.
So you're actually differentiating between a protein bar or a health bar versus the healthy chocolate that we're building today.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Although I'm not sure if a protein bar exists, because a protein bar would possibly denote to a person that you eat this and you will develop some
Build
muscles,
muscle.
etc.,
Yeah.
etc. It's a slightly difficult proposition to land, but
Hmm.
I'm not an expert of the category, so I don't know.
Okay.
But healthy chocolate is all about saying that you want to eat chocolate, I will give you a chocolate which you won't feel guilty about. Second part after category benefits is category drivers, which is about what are the key reasons which drive the consumption of this category.
As in,
Yeah,
not just for healthy, all chocolate.
all chocolate. And
Right.
we will keep diving into health chocolates for sure. Now, when we talk about healthy chocolate, it will just add a lever of saying the need to balance indulgence and health during each one of these occasions will drive the consumption of healthy chocolates. Now, last but not the least is also important about what thinking about category barriers. And from a barrier perspective, one of the things that people might believe that when you say healthy, it usually means not tasty. Yeah.
Right.
And it is not just about chocolate, it is everything and
Absolutely. Yeah.
anything. Yeah, for people are firmly of the belief that if it is healthy, it can't be tasty. If it is tasty, it can't be healthy. Number two, with the rising need for information and a lot of also in parallel a lot of obfuscation that people see, there is a significant barrier where people will believe that a lot of players make false or unsubstantiated claims.
Using very complex words just to confuse the audience, to give them the belief that they're eating something healthy.
Correct. So one is complicated words or other, and other ways there are times where the brands take such leap that
Ah.
and therefore I say this often, we are living in those times, Sharon, where detergents are meaningful and our lives are meaningless.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's not go into the purpose space anymore.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is where we have reached today. So therefore, false or unsubstantiated claims. And third piece is, we have seen this a number of times. Whenever there is a healthy brand, somehow people believe that a healthy brand should look like a doctor's handwriting. Yeah, everybody shouldn't be able to understand what is in it, but it should look like a prescription drug, and therefore lots of things written on it. You only need to just write RX in front of it. Yeah, and therefore inability to understand claims is also a category barrier.
Okay, I'm going to actually turn that around.
Hmm.
Now, is the inability to understand claims also a driver of trust in this category?
Might work for some. For example, for medicines it might, because people don't expect to understand it. Now you're talking about a category which otherwise people think they understand, which is chocolates.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now how you have made a indulgence category into health, you should ideally try to build believability. If you obfuscate, then regardless of your product truth, people will club you with all other chocolates. Because I've worked on this category in the past, even Kinder Joy has in their advertising shows milk, cream, and barley and wheat, etc., etc. So the category has done its own share of sins.
Of
Yeah. So if
course.
you're not clear enough, you will get clubbed there. And hence I'm saying this is a barrier. This completes the category section. Now next we go to consumers. So therefore first we say what are the core consumers, and this is where I introduce four terms, and let's just understand those four terms properly.
Okay.
We talk about core consumer, we talk about growth consumers, we talk about expert consumers, and we talk about shoppers. Core consumers are people who will be contributing to 70-80% of your current revenue.
Means the current revenue of the category.
Current revenue of the category.
Right.
And if you are an existing brand, current revenue of your existing brand.
Okay.
Growth consumers are people who will be contributing to 70-80% of the growth that you will get in the years to come.
The incrementals.
Incrementals. A lot of the times they might be the same as your core consumers. There's no problem in having both the same, but you should always spend time thinking about, would my growth come from the current set of people or would my growth come from different set of people?
But as a thumb rule, wouldn't your growth come from new trials anyway?
So for example, Sharon, if you are uh, marketing to kids, a lot of your growth could come from driving frequency amongst kids, because you could make them eat chocolate twice, thrice, four times, five times a day. You could also, drive frequency, you could drive penetration amongst kids also. However, you might have a belief that right now I've reached a level where driving frequency amongst kids or penetration amongst kids is going to be a very, very costly or inefficient affair. And therefore, I want to start appealing to slightly elder audience. I want to appeal to teenagers, for example.
Right.
So therefore, teenagers become your growth consumers, kids become your core consumers.
Got it.
And
Okay.
therefore, what you will possibly do is, when you craft your proposition for a current brand, you would want to craft a proposition which talks to the growth consumer without alienating your core consumer, because you want to keep your volume churning. For a new brand, it's an opportunity to choose whether you want to go to the core consumers of the category or you want to go to the growth consumers of the category. The third piece is expert consumers. Now, expert consumers are people who are either very, very heavy consumers of your brand, or they are the ones who will have a point of view slash influence on the consumption of your brand. And they are the guys who can become an interesting contributors to your brand story. And when you speak to them, you discover very interesting aspects or interesting sides of your brand. Yeah, they might not be extremely relevant in terms of consuming themselves, but they'll be impacting consumption of a whole lot of people in your TG. The fourth is the shoppers. There are a lot of categories where the shopper is different from the consumer. Somebody else picks up the product from the shelf and then gives it to the consumer. Yeah, a typical example would be in a kids category. Usually is the mother that's the shopper, mother or the father, and the kid is the consumer. Now for the whole this one, the healthy chocolate, what I have said is that core consumers, number one, are teenagers who are health crazy. Yeah, they are the ones who want to indulge, but they are also conscious of the fact that they don't want to become they would want to spoil their health.
Hmm.
The second is NCCSA adults,
Hmm.
because when adults realize that they've started losing their ability to burn fat when they were like they used to when they were younger, that is when they immediately start, you know rationalizing some of those things. So at the very first, they will look at their indulgences,
Got it.
and when they go forward, they start indulging into healthy activities.
Mhm.
But first thing is to look at indulgence, and therefore those guys become a target. From a growth consumer perspective, what I have done for the healthy chocolate, I am possibly saying that I would want to pick up NCCSA adult women. Yeah, so I'm saying that today most of the category is possibly talking to teens. For this product, I would want to talk to women, adult women. And the reason I've chosen adult women here is that the mother or the women of the household were in a position where the mother used to sacrifice everything for their kids, and the mother would eat less, eat unhealthy, etc., etc., but she would give the most healthiest stuff to their kids and her husband. Yeah, those were the days of sacrificial mom. So these days I am seeing a revival where women want to take care of themselves also. In fact, so much so that it is not just the kid or kids health which is a reflection of what happens in the home. In fact, the mother's health is also a reflection of what happens in the home. Possibly the previous mindset was emerging out of scarcity. Even today, possibly in households where food or healthy food is scarce, we might see the same phenomenon in at least the middle class, which
Hmm.
contributes to about more than one third of India today. You will find that the women are increasingly started making choices, sometimes differently from what rest of the household eats or does, to make sure that they're able to take care of themselves. Yeah, so therefore I am saying that this is one segment which is bound to grow very well. The
Mhm.
current thrust on cosmetics that you see, all that, quite a few movement in D2C brands, etc., kind of tells you that this movement is already afoot.
So I'm just going to stop you before you go on to the next point, Sudeep.
Hmm.
Are you saying that the current category of anything related to the healthy chocolate is catered towards teens and adult men? But
Hmm.
with the new brand that you're launching now, you see
Hmm.
women as an untapped opportunity within the category?
In fact, one of the points that I'm saying is that the current communication for the brands that I remember in this category is not very clearly targeted at men or women
And you see an opportunity to target women specifically.
specifically. Correct. Some of the earlier ones that I see, where brands like, for example, Right Bite, Nature Valley, etc., had associated more with sports, youth, etc., etc. So
Hmm.
therefore, that's the impression that I have in my mind, that this is what they used to do. I
Okay.
haven't seen anybody targeting women specifically. Then the next question to answer is, what are the expert consumers for the brand? And amongst the expert consumers, I am saying that dietitians are possibly an expert consumer, because a lot of these people have now started consulting or following dietitians. A lot of the dietitians are influencers now, and so therefore those are the people who will have a point of view on what these guys are eating and what how should they eat, etc., etc. The second one that possibly are expert consumers are gym instructors, yeah, or personal instructors, fitness instructors, etc., who will have a point of view. Lastly, the shoppers. Shoppers is obviously the women of the household, because this becomes a pantry item, and the teenagers themselves. Yeah, that is how the consumer pans out.
You're listening to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands. Your hosts are Sudeep Chawla, marketing practitioner, business leader, and educator to advertising and marketing professionals, and Sharavana Raghavan of Vitral Innovations, consultants to consumer facing brands and businesses. For more information, go to copcast.net. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling your friends and rating us.
Then we move over to the last bit on this, Sharon, and the last bit is about competition. And you talk about competition so that you specifically know how is the competition positioned, who is your competition, how are they positioned, and therefore what would you do differently from them, and that therefore creates differentiation for yourself. So who is the competition for the brand? I see the Whole Truth as my competitor. Yeah, that's the most salient competitor, at least in my head. And who are the big competitors? I say the biggest is the Whole Truth for me,
Hmm.
and then there are brands like Slurp Farm, Little Joys, and many others.
You just mentioned Right Bite and Nature Valley. You're not including them here?
I don't see them as salient anymore, frankly. When I
Okay.
walk into a shop, etc., today, I don't see as much stock from them, honestly.
Hmm. Okay.
But maybe, possibly, I don't see them salient on TV or online, etc. So I would
No, no.
possibly say the Whole Truth is my bigger one. The next thing is to think about, why does Whole Truth win? They are seen as somebody who is very authentic about their mission. So they want to demystify health food. They're very authentic about it. So they are doing a lot of stuff to make sure they're seen as authentic. They have great packaging. They have made sure that they have very few claims, three or four, ingredients, all of them on the front of the pack.
Right.
So they
And
don't
I don't
hide.
think there's any secret that you're a big fan of this brand.
Yeah,
And
I
we've
am.
spoken about how they've kind of propped up transparency at every point.
So I think they have good packaging. They have done great marketing activations, and therefore I think they're winning wherever they're winning.
Right.
Uh, what do they not do so well? This is where I think my opportunity lies. That they
Hmm.
don't talk to one TG specifically.
Hmm.
They talk to fitness enthusiasts of all age and all genders. Yeah. So that is where my opportunity of targeting women lies. So now then we talk about, laddering our benefits.
Hmm.
So we talk about feature, advantage, and benefits,
Hmm.
FAB.
Hmm.
And features are usually the factuals around the product or the service.
Okay.
Then advantages are a simple answer to the question, what do the features do? Those are logical extensions of your features.
Right.
And lastly, you talk about benefits. Benefits is why should one value the advantages? And these usually tend to be emotional in nature. Yeah, how
Right.
do they make you feel? So therefore, what I would like to build as feature in my product is that I would like my product to taste as good as regular chocolate. I would want my product to have buttery smooth texture. I would definitely want that my product has no added chemicals and no added sugar. So therefore everything is natural, etc. Most importantly, what I believe is because a lot of the women consumption happens in home
Hmm.
and there will be pantry consumption. I don't want to launch any bars. I also only want to launch multi-pack minis.
Okay. You're enabling pantry loading with this.
Yeah, number one, pantry loading. Number two, I also believe that women would appreciate giving them something which enables portion control. So therefore, you can have one mini and then say that okay, I'm done for the day, and therefore I'm giving you a shot of a certain calories only. Versus my belief is when a bar opens, it becomes difficult to take just one cube.
Right. And I also like tastes as good as regular chocolate. It's buttery
Yes,
smooth without any chemicals or added sugar.
yeah,
If only
that's
an
my wish
R&D
list.
person was listening to this podcast, they would throw a fit and come over to your house right now.
No, I will just pick up competitors' products and give it to him. If somebody else can do it, I'm sure we can.
I'm
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
correct. If it was not for marketing, the R&D would only be making tasteless and odorless, colorless stuff.
You're just
Yeah,
confident nobody from R&D is listening to us right now.
correct. Yeah, and then why would they want all of this? Because I am giving them the perfect trinity. Yeah, and
Okay.
which usually hasn't existed thus far. And I'm only talking to women. Yeah, so I give them the perfect trinity, which is I give them good portion control, I give them great ingredients, and they give them the greatest taste. So there's good, great, greatest there,
Hmm.
and it is meant for women. So I would possibly position it saying that the perfect trinity for the perfect goddess. For the category, the core consumers are teen and adults. Within the adult segment, the women will possibly be the growth category for the growth consumers for the category.
Wouldn't you be letting go of a large
Hmm.
portion of the people who are already consumers of the category?
Correct. I will be. I
And
will
is
be.
that not a risk?
It is. See, again, the fact is that when you do segmentation, targeting, positioning, the fact that you're choosing a segment means that you're not choosing others. So I would much rather create extreme affinity with a slightly smaller segment than have a very surface level affinity with a significantly large segment. And what I also believe is that once I have established my credentials basis my format and my product, etc., there is nothing in the product per se which dissuades others from having it.
So I'm going to put this question. This is something I struggle with a lot of the entrepreneurs I work with.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to make a product that appeals to everybody,
Hmm.
and you're doing the opposite.
Hmm.
While I'm inclined to agree with your positioning, I'm still going to push you and saying, I'm a
Hmm.
new business. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
startup.
Mm-hmm.
Why will I start my business by ruling out a significant part of my possible target audience?
So let me try to turn it around. Yeah. So when you are a new business and you're making choices, you will make choices on two axes. One axis in is size of the price. The second axis is about the ability to win. So therefore, if you just take NCCS A women, yeah, it's not a small number. There is no D2C brand today that reaches even 1 crore consumers properly. Yeah. So number one, while it might seem very big that oh I am giving away teenagers, etc., etc., you're still talking to 15, 16 crores, 20 crores consumers.
Fair enough.
So therefore, you have to be realistic about the numbers that you're going after. And
Hmm.
I would still say that don't be worried about, alienating or not. Rather, it's not about alienating, not targeting a certain segment to start with.
Got
Yeah.
it.
As a startup founder, you are actually wanting to attract early adopters.
Exactly.
You should be happy. First, think about getting your first 10 consumers. Leave aside the crores. Getting the first 10 is usually the hardest. So therefore, I'm very comfortable saying that I'll only target women, NCCS A, adult women of that kind. So that takes care of my FAB. Then largely we are done now. Now that we have made all the choices,
Hmm.
then all that we do is we put it in a simple, nice looking format
Hmm.
where we paste the picture of the kind of women that we are talking about, and then we clearly call these winning, we call all of this as winning choices, and we say that this product, the healthy treat, I'm calling my brand as the healthy treat. The healthy treat is for NCCSA women who want themselves and their families to eat healthy, and who think that their own health reflects their family's health. And this is to the point, you remember, Sharon, we spoke about the fact that don't just do demographic targeting, do
Right.
attitudinal targeting as well.
Exactly.
So this is where your demographics is NCCSA adult women, but
Hmm.
you also want to specifically target the mindset, which says that these are the ones who want to take care of themselves, and take take pride in the fact that their health reflects their family's health.
Hmm.
Yeah. And therefore, to them, the healthy treats offers the perfect trinity for their treats. Yeah. Good portion control, great ingredients, and greatest taste. And why should you believe it? Because healthy treat uses only natural ingredients, so any added chemical sugar, and it provides great portion control via the minis format. Yeah.
Perfect.
So this almost becomes my concept card, if you might call it, without the
Right.
photograph of a of
Product.
the product, etc.
Hmm.
And that can become a stimulus. And the other day you were asking me, how can a small brand do research without
Right.
having budgets, etc., etc. You create a concept card like this with simple inputs. Go and meet consumers, go and meet NCCS A women, and don't go interview your wife. Please go to somebody who will not be biased. You show it to them and see what do they say, what do they like about it, what do they not like about it, and be ready to do recycling once or twice before you finalize your concept. And
Right.
then you are, my friend, ready to launch the healthy treat.
Awesome. But before I start singing praises of what you've done today, I'm
Hmm.
going to point something out. You've worked on some crazy ass big brands, and for a sample, you named this brand the Healthy Treat.
Hmm.
And this, listeners, is why we engage with creative agencies to come up with
Correct.
better names than the Healthy Treat.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Of course. You give me a example or give me a challenge, I'm good. You give me time, I'm unbeatable. So I'll need some time to come up with something more creative. But you're right. Uh, you should never shy away from engaging with some creative partners, because they will add tremendous value to your offerings,
Absolutely.
and they will embellish it so that the TG would really really like them.
Awesome. No, I completely agree with that. And just to get back on track to say, I think you've done a very, very good job and gone through it pretty fast. So you started with putting together the brand prerequisite framework. You've covered analysis
Hmm.
of the category, the consumers, and the competition. And then you basically built up a brand from scratch. You spoke of how you will define the features which are relevant to the category and the consumers, what the advantages of the features are, and how they translate into the eventual benefit for the consumers to hook them on an emotional level. And then you're summarizing all of it, a winning competitive framework to, to put it down as a pseudo concept that can even be tested with consumers. And you did that in what? Roughly 30 minutes?
Yeah, by and large, yes.
I think that's very good work for 30 minutes, Sudeep.
No, I think so. And I must also advise people that when you are putting down some of these things, you should, obviously have a significant category context. So I would advise you to go out, talk to retailers, talk to your teams, talk to people who are consumers, and then put this up. I have put it up only from what possibly I understand from outside of the category. I'm sure there are many nuances that I have not captured here.
No, I think this is more an approach. While I put you on the spot for healthy chocolate, I think the entire framework holds good for any consumer facing category that
Correct.
people are working on.
Correct.
And
Correct. In
not,
fact,
in fact, not even consumer facing, could be any brand that's being created.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is just a model to follow. And
Mm,
if you can understand the core of what's being done,
mm,
then you might not even need these frameworks to build what you're building.
yes.
What happens after this?
So then, so this completes your branding thinking.
Hmm.
So this allows you to tell you that what is the kind of shape, format, etc. your brand would take, and therefore, what is the core one or two things which will support the belief with which you are starting this brand. It allows you to then build all your assortments, your behaviors, your interactions around it. Then once you have, once you've got sufficient amount of evidence that this is holding resonance for your target segment, you then start thinking about marketing it, because you want to reach to the larger set of people.
Right.
Yeah. So what we will do possibly, Sharon, sometime over in the next podcast sometime, is to create the next set of frameworks slash choices, which will enable anybody to, then create their marketing briefs out of this.
Hmm. So we can actually create a proper marketing brief for the healthy treat.
Exactly. Yes. What we will do is we will continue this journey, and then we will say whatever we have gathered thus far, how this marries into a marketing framework, and therefore results into something which can be given as a marketing brief to an internal team, external team, etc. etc.
Oh wow, I like that. I like that. I look forward to that one.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for listening to COB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.